Hey folks, good evening. Hey, I wanted to give an update of where I was with converting things over from 5e to Tales of the Valiant. And I'm not going to tread on too much new ground here. I think there'll be a few things here that I'll talk about. I think I mentioned it in previous videos, but just want to say what I've been doing over the last little while. The biggest thing is deep magic. So I spent the time to get all of the deep magic spells reviewed, right? So I had mentioned this before, but I wanted to give a shout out to No One on on the Discord channel for Deep Magic. So one thing that he did, and I'll put the link for this inside of the video, right, in the description. But basically, he reviewed all the spells of Deep Magic 1 and 2. He put what he thought was the correct, um, we'll call it school, class, grouping, whatever, for these spells, whether they're arcane, divine, primordial, or wild. And yeah, so if this is a good place to start, right? Um, he put a lot of time into this. He not only categorized them all, he also, for some spells, if it was named after a person, he kind of made it more generic. So you can fiddle with that if you want. I like the names personally. That's just me, but um, they are in here. There's a separate section down here for rituals, which is good to know because, um, in Tales of the Valiant now, rituals are done differently than than 5e. That they're separate grouping, and you get ritual spells kind of like the way you get cantrip spells, right? You get so many per level, and that way you're not wasting spell slots and so forth, right? So, and also choosing the spell itself. So it's good to know these because when you go through the spells, not all of the spells were flagged as ritual in the conversion because now anything longer than the casting of one action is a ritual spell in Tales of the Valiant, which is different than what it was in 5e, right? So I'll put this list there. This is a great first start, like I said. So what you need to do, what I did, how I did it, was I, made the different folders for each spell. I made the colors the same as the one for the player's guide. And then inside each one, so this was so fun. Um, Meaning that sarcastically. What I did is this used to be, if you remember from my previous videos, you can go back and see. This was just one long dump spell list, just 1,000 spells, whatever the heck it was, right? So what I did was I made a folder called Cantrip, and then I basically started going through and um, finding all the cantrips, right? Looking through the spell lists and separating them by cantrip, right? Putting them in their own folder. Then I did the same thing for first circle, second circle, third circle, fourth circle, and so forth, right? And then once I had them all separated by spell circle, then inside each one, I made a folder called Needs DM Review. So, zoop. So this list that you have here from No One, if it's not on the list, then basically he's saying he's not using it. Maybe he found the spell to be overpowered, underpowered. Maybe I think some of them he mentioned to me today when I asked him if he minded if I um, flagged his work in this video. I think he mentioned that some of the spells deal with alignment, which is something that the newer systems got rid of. Um, I think alignment as part of a player character is not tons useful. Like I know it was a big thing in 1E when I used to play that years ago, but I kind of agree that for a character you don't really have to get too deep into the alignment thing. But I do think it's useful for monsters and so forth. And I'm not sure if those alignment things dealt with monster alignment, probably, versus character alignment. I think getting rid of monster alignment was a mistake. I think it's a good way of describing how the monster normally behaves. How the DM wants to do it's up to the DM. That's fine, but personally, I thought it was a good way to give an idea of how that monster, fiend, whatever you might be, would normally behave. At any rate, side commentary. So yeah, so you have this list. Whatever is not on this list, I dumped in this needs DM review folder. So you can see here, if I spring this, right, there's a lot of spells here that didn't make the cut. I want to feel like it's around 50-50, but I can't say I really put real numbers on it on the work that he did. But it was a fair, decent amount that he didn't put on his list. And to be honest, that's not a bad thing. For those of you who have some history with Deep Magic 1 and 2, especially Deep Magic 1, a lot of these spells were, or at least a number of them, were basically submitted by fans, which is great, right? I think, and I wasn't tied, I didn't play any Cobalt Press stuff when Deep Magic 1 came out, right? But my feeling from people talking on Discord and so forth was the spells that were submitted weren't really reviewed that closely for wording and other things like that. And even when they re-released Deep Magic 1, I know there was some disappointment in the community that some cycles wasn't put in to like reviewing those spells and maybe making some obvious corrections at the very least. At any rate, it's probably good to at least, if you don't want to use no one's list, that's fine, obviously. But I would recommend some review at some level just to make sure you're all good, right? That what you're going to allow in your game isn't going to necessarily break the power levels or so forth. So I'm trusting no one. So it's all good. He seems like a very thorough guy, like I said in a previous video. So yeah, so what I had to do then was, once I had them separated by level, I had to, whoops, I accidentally got rid of my spell list. There it is. So if it wasn't on his list, then I had to copy it from the cantrip folder to the subfolder needs DM review. So that way I would get everything that was rejected will be in this one red folder and it's separated by level. And then what you also need to do if you go into one of these spells is, of course, unlock it and mainly fill in the source of magic here by choosing the correct checkboxes. I strongly recommend that, like I showed again in the previous video. If you don't have them flagged, then when the person levels up in Foundry, then you have to basically, they won't show up on the spell list, right? When you level up in Foundry, it shows you the available list of spells, and if it's blank for Source of Magic, then it's not going to show up. Because if you're a cleric, you need something that's a divine spell, and if it's not flagged as divine, you're not going to get it. Makes sense, right? So you do have to go through all these and flag them with the correct source of magic. Also, like I said, some spells might not be flagged correctly as ritual. So if you also have to go in here and click the ritual flag if there's something that needs to be corrected. And just to go through all of that took, I don't know, we'll just say several movies, right? That usually, once my wife goes to bed, or I'm usually the last one up at night, so I would put on something to keep me company and just start dragging and dropping and clicking, and eventually I got there. So yeah, so now I've got a whole bunch of things that I want to I have for my characters for the next Foundry for next Tales of the Valiant Foundry game I play, which hopefully I'll get through the one I'm doing now in the next. It's really hard to say. Couple months, maybe. I don't know. We're on the last part of the 3-part module, so we're getting there. Um, we'll see how it plays out. But and then maybe I'll be doing Labyrinth. I'm not sure what I'm doing yet, but we'll find out. Anyway, so this is done. I did want to give some other things that I found out over the past couple of weeks and what I've been working on next. Now that this is done, lock this darn thing. I don't want to look at it again for a while. One thing I wanted to mention was one of the previous videos I did one for exporting a character to a PDF file. So you can go back and take a look at that, but Foundry does have that capability. I worked with one of the people who programmed the connection between Foundry and PDFs so that it would recognize Tales of the Valiant structure inside of Foundry, so you could do that. One thing that was pointed out to me was if you try to do multiple characters, there's a bug basically, or I guess it's more of a feature than a bug, but basically if you do one character and then you try and do a second character, you get the first character again. There's been people who've been seeing that. So that's not on my side, right? Because I'm only programming the mapping between the two. That's something on the program itself side. So I need to get off my butt and flag it to Bushman, who originally created the interface. It sounds like something that the objects that he's creating behind the curtain to connect the PDF to Foundry are not getting blown away or not being blown away timely, right? Maybe it's taking too long to do garbage collection. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but basically it's not being blown away. However, there's a workaround. You could just simply close Foundry and reopen it, but that's a pain in the butt. So what you can do is if you hit, F5, right? You see if I hit F5 there, you see all Foundry blinking. That's the refresh the browser button, and this is all browser based. So if you click on F5 like that, then it will blow away those objects that are being hung in Foundry, and then the next time that you run your PDF export, you should not get the same character over again in your printout. So that saves a little bit of time versus you blowing away the darn thing every time. That's a pain. But this way, you can do it pretty quickly. So yeah, that's something I wanted to point out. Next thing is, what am I going to do next? So the thing I'm going to do next is, I'm kind of torn. I did some work briefly with Vault of Magic and Castles and Crowns. So Vault of Magic is an interesting thing because it has so many magic items. I know people like this a lot, right? And you certainly can take the time to use the item importer, right? If you remember again from the previous video, everything is an item. So if you go into the items, where am I? I'm in a different one. But what you could do, if I get out of this one, basically you're following the same import-export process as before, right? So you have to go, I got to migrate. Yeah, sure, why not? It'll take 2 seconds. You got to go into Foundry. You need to go into a 5e module. Click in the or 5e world. Go into the correct module to connect them all. Yada yada yada. Look at previous videos, and then you'll get the. You can see some of the stuff I did already. Under items, you can do import spell item. I would say that generally speaking, doing items is a mixed bag, right? So I've done some of these for Vault of Magic just for funsies, to see what would happen. Like if you look at Forge Hammer, I forget which one. Yeah, so you can see here, yada yada yada. This doesn't say anything for plus to hit, but what's happening is most of these is you're just getting the description of the item, right? Um, you're not getting like all the time whether it's if the weapon has a bonus to hit or something like that. It's not really pulling that in. It's just giving you, generally speaking, a dump of the text. It is creating an item for you. So in that sense, if you just want to copy paste descriptions into your making items and copy paste descriptions, it will at least do that, but it's not necessarily most of the time giving you the bonuses and the abilities programmed into Foundry. And considering how many items are on in this book, um, that's a lot. I'm probably just going to wait potentially for Foundry's Volta Magic 5e to go on sale, and then maybe I'll pick it up, or maybe I'll pick it up on full price. I'll get into that in a second. I don't know, but picking this up in 5e Foundry, and then trying the converter to convert the entire compendium, probably a better way to go. Considering how much pain I just went through with Deep Magic 1 and 2, I really don't want to go and program all those items. That's kind of a bridge too far, at least for me. Um, the next thing is for Castles and Crowns. I was looking at that again. I don't know why I pulled that up. So some good news on Castle of Crowns. There are some items on here. Again, you're going to probably have to put them in manually. But there's also spells in here, right? So with spells, again, all these new lineages and stuff, you're probably going to have to do that manually as well. The spells are working, though. I did a few of the spells. Where are the dang spells? I should just look at the thing here. Well, trust me, they're working. Versus me trying to find it all. Site and settings, royal magic, duh. Additional spells and runes. So the nice thing, and this is why the items don't work as well, but the spells do a bit better job, is that if you look at the spells here, you can see that there's a format to the spells. Everyone's seen this format before for 5e, right? You have the name of the spell, you have blah 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 blah. So the code that basically parses this text can very easily pick up all the relevant information and then make the object fairly accurately, right? So in that sense, these spells still follow the 5e format. So even though this is a post 5e spell, the fact that Cobalt Press kept the format the same as 5e for the wording means that you can copy and paste this and pretty quickly get through the spells. So that is a plus. I don't think there's that many of them anyway. These are the spells and rituals. These are some other ones. It's not too bad. So I'm probably going to try and go through all these spells first. I've done a few already. Here's Broken Heart, and you can see it's picking up the casting time and the range and all that sexy stuff. These spells are not necessarily combat spells, I think, for the most part, but if you want to grab them, you can. So I'll probably do that next, and maybe I'll go through the rest of Castles and Crowns next, and then I guess that's it. I mean, if I want to start cleaning up the other stuff, I will with Deep Magic, right? Like I said, I've pulled in everything for Deep Magic, but I haven't necessarily fixed all of the subclasses of Deep Magic because there's well over 50 of them. And how many am I really going to play? I'll probably do it on demand. So yeah, I kind of feel I am slowly winding down on this a little bit. I'm probably going to make some other videos over time, small ones like this. Makita said we might make one sometime next week together. We'll see what we cook up for that. But this is getting close. I did want to say one other thing. This is just like a side note. There was a lot of panic, for lack of a better way of putting it, the other day when President Trump announced the tariffs that was being levied across the world against goods. Um, I don't want to get too deep into the political side of it. That's not my thing here. But the bottom line is there was a lot of panic. Cobalt Press put out a post. They mentioned Steve Jackson Games and just a lot. I know Stephen Glicker over at Roll for Combat. He did a video. You can go over there and take a look at that. Just basically saying, and Stephen, he's a good person to listen to because he's been in this industry for so long. And I mean, I have too, but I'm just a player, right? He's been a behind the scenes guy for a while, and he talked about how this is going to make it difficult for the gaming industry as a whole, right? And yeah, there's a lot of soul searching that's going on the gaming side. So for what it's worth, I hope that Cobalt Press and other vendors can learn how to pivot and make this work for their companies. Uh, for me, I mean, it's not even just role playing games for me, right? Uh, I played a crap ton of 5e. I've played a lot of 1e when I was a kid, which is longer ago than I want to admit. The stuff in between, I can't say I played that much. I didn't play 2e. I played 3.5e and 4e enough to be dangerous to kind of dip a foot in, so to speak. I can't say I played it for years. That would, so I didn't play it that much. During that time in between, I played a hell of a lot of board games. Um, I was in that group ever since, uh, you know, uh, Settlers of Catan, which to me is one of the first games that really broke the industry, the German board game industry into the United States. To me, that's kind of where it started. Um, and then it kind of went from there for other popular games, whether that's Puerto Rico was, a really big one, and so on and so forth, right? And it's just been going on for years since then. I think anything in today's day and age that's going to use printed material, whether that's boards, whether that's books, whether that's dice, is really going to get slammed. And it's going to be interesting to see how people pivot. Um, my hope, and this is just me talking as a programmer for many years and as a database guy for many years, um, I would hope that they learn how to go as a whole. Everybody, you're just going to have to go more electronic. That's all I can think about. If I think about my own history personally, um, I played all of 5e without books. I don't have any books for 5e in my side over there. I just kind of took a peek. They were all in D&D Beyond, and when I ran, you know, um, you know, campaign after campaign in 5e, I could just do through D&D Beyond and web pages, right? And they didn't really charge me that much less than a printed book. And board game wise, right? A lot of people who know me, you'll see the number 41 in my name on Discord and other things. And the 41 comes from before I I was before. If you're into board games, you probably know what Board Game Arena is, right? It's a website where you can play a bunch of board games, and for a minimal fee, you can play some of the more expensive ones, um, or the more premium ones, we'll call it, that are really popular. Before that, I played a lot of games, and I gotta look at it to make sure I try to pronounce it. I'm not German. Why? I'm partially German, but I can't speak it. Brett Spielwelt, right? So that is a German game site. Uses like a Java client to play a lot of board games. And I'm used to playing a lot of games online. I own a crap ton of board games. I have multiple closets full of them and bookshelves full of them throughout the house. But if you're going to ask me, I've played a lot more games electronically than I have physical, right? So I was the head of one of the communities over at Brett Spielvelt. If you're familiar with that, I was the mayor of Emerald City for a better part of at least 5 years, I think, at least maybe more, I forget. But that was an international gaming community, and I played the hell out of that site. And then now to a certain extent, Board Game Arena as well. Don't get me wrong. For the last almost 20 years, I've had neighbors come over to my house once a week to play physical board games. I still play more online than I do physical, and that same thing for RPGs as well. I've played a lot more D&D, Tales of the Valiant, um, Starfinder, take your pick, online than I ever have physical because it's easier. It's easier to find people. It's easier to get together. It's easier to find players, right? So I hope that these other games embrace that. If you can't make your money with physical media, make it with electronic. You know, it, whatever it costs you to make a Foundry module or whatever it might be for an RPG, um, once you build it, it costs the same whether you have, 1,000 people using it or 10,000 people using it. So to originally build it, right? So my hope would be that game companies as a whole kind of go more electronic, and we do it that way. And someday, if these tariffs change so that physical media makes sense, then yeah. But I mean, the cost of paper was ridiculous before this, let alone what it's going to be now. And my wife was close to the paper industry for a number of years. She's been out of it for a while, but the bottom line is, yeah, it's crazy. So, anyway, I hope it goes well for all of these small companies, and I would recommend Stephen Glicker's, video Roll of Combat. Let's Google Roll for Combat, and you'll find his video. Um, I hope this works out for people, and good luck. So with that, that's my update, and I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks. Bye.